And we are live.
Welcome, everyone, back to Good Medicine Way here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It must be Monday evening again, so welcome, everyone. Looks like we have quite a few new guests on here on our Zoom tonight, and I think I know the reason why. He's sitting next to me here, Brian Remington. So we'll hear of him in a little bit here, but we just want to welcome you all and thank you for coming on tonight. And we're going to get a land acknowledgement here. We always recognize the people of this land here. They're the Tiwa people. The Hopi people are further to our west, but the Pueblo people are right here on our back door. They run their pueblos up and down the Rio Grande, and it's just beautiful. Get a chance to meet them, the plazas that they have, the dances that they have, the arts, the pottery, all very worth a visit out this way. And the Apache tribes that are here too, up in Dulce, and a little further south of us here, Apache tribes that are in this area. And then we have the Navajo tribe, just to our west. But always recognize here in the city limits, we have over last count, it was during the census, 127 different tribes are recognized here in Albuquerque city limits. It doesn't include the kind of outlying areas or the new town in our area is called Rio Rancho. It's a growing metropolis to our northwest, and it's just growing every day, an urban sprawl kind of thing. It's really happening. So we acknowledge all of those tribes that are here. And myself, I'm Pokagon Band Potawatomi from Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's where my tribal headquarters is, up there. My wife's Navajo, and we've been living here in Albuquerque now for 25 years. So I think I'm a resident now. So gotten used to it. So with that, we want to turn it over to our opening prayer. We're going to read together a directional prayer that Brian has for us.
Yeah, so if you need to read it from the screen, that's fine. Just kind of acknowledge the directions as you're able. Because I'll have to do the same because I don't have it memorized.
What I do with my hands here is when we pick a direction, I point my hands. So I'm sitting down to that direction, and then to the south, I point them like this, and then to the west, to the north, to the earth, to the sky, to the south. So you can do it sitting down too.
Yeah, all right. And then after the opening prayer, we'll go right into our opening song. Okay. Creator, as we face the east, we are thankful for the rising sun and the new experiences coming forth in our lives. As we face the south, we are thankful for opportunities to grow in harmony and learning to walk your good road. As we face the west, we are thankful for things that steady us and help us to mature in steadfastness. As we face the north, we are thankful for wisdom and grace when we move through closure. We behold Father Sky and are thankful for all of creation in learning our place in the dance. We connect to Mother Earth and are thankful for sustenance and our honored responsibility to care for all our relations. We reflect inward, growing in harmony, thankful to move in our place in the balance of all things.
Oh, it is so. Very nice. That was a very nice one. That's something you can do on your own if you in the morning when you meet that sunrise. That's when, on my walks, when I start my morning walks, that's what I do is my door faces east and I greet the morning sun at 7:20 in the morning. So we're going to go into our the song there, opening song here, the creation song, Psalms 148.
All right. Here we go. There's a lot of words, but they're pretty straightforward, so hopefully it won't be difficult for anybody. I usually do the guitar on this one, but we're just going to do it with the drum tonight. Angels, all powers, oh heaven, praise Creator, sun, moon, stars, all that move in the expanse of the deep, every one of the birds on the wing, highly exalt him forever. Chill to drop, no fall, praise Creator, strong and cold eyes, praise Creator, flocks and the herds and the beasts of the wild, all men and women and every child, praise the Creator, raise your voices high, highly exalted forever. Oh night, day, oh shining light, praise Creator, darkness, storm clouds, and thunder, praise Creator, hi hey oh hey oh hey oh hey hi hey oh hey oh hey oh hey hi hey oh hey oh hey oh hey highly exalted forever. People, priests and servants, oh Spirit, praise Creator, all holy and humble and high, praise Creator, all of you creatures on earth and in sky, don't go exchanging the truth for a lie, mountains and hill he awaits your reply, praise Creator, praise Creator, praise Creator.
Nice. Very nice song. All right, with that, we're going to go to our Lord's Prayer. We're going to be reading that together from the First Nations version. And many of you know already, and our newcomers let you know that many of you know the Lord's Prayer most likely from the King James Version. And so here at Good Medicine Way, we are learning it from the First Nations version. And it's a challenge that we put out there. So the end of this month, we're going to have a challenge to give everybody a chance to see who has memorized it. So that's going to be, so I've been able to do it a couple different times now in some big settings, and, you know, it's come natural to me now. But everyone, it's a big break from the King James Version.
All right.
Brian?
All right. Creator sets free, shows us how to pray. O great Spirit, our Father from above, we honor your name as sacred and holy. Bring your good road to us, where the beauty of your ways in the spirit world above is reflected in the earth below. Provide for us day by day the elk, the buffalo, the salmon, the corn, the squash, and the wild rice, all the things we need for each day. Release us from the things we have done wrong. In the same way, we release others who have done wrong to us. Guide us away from the things that tempt us to stray from your good road, and set us free from the evil one and his worthless ways. Aho, may it be so.
Right. Well, I'll start off right now at the smoke signals. Smoke signals is the time when we do our announcements. And everyone knows that smoke signals, as that's when they would send messages with smoke in the air. So this book here is what we're reading on Tuesday night, tomorrow night at 6:30. If you went to the Good Medicine Way page, you would see a link on there that would put you to a Zoom so that you could connect with us. So we're in the middle of chapter 2, and we're going to do the rest of this chapter for tomorrow night. It's pretty heady, but it is real theological. And if you haven't heard about it, reading the Bible on Turtle Island. It's an indigenous hermeneutic. And that's a big theological word, means that they're reading the Bible from a perspective of a Native American point of view. And I always say, rather from the white North Atlantic, white male point of view. And so it's getting a lot of press. And Danny and Chris have just got another podcast that they did, and it's on our screen too. You can look at our Good Medicine Way page. They've been interviewed once again on this, and they're going to be going to Fuller Seminary shortly for a lecture series where they're going to be talking about the hermeneutics, indigenous hermeneutics. So join us if you can, and you can catch up. We got a couple of people that are going to join us, but they're not even going to join us till halfway through the book. So they travel a lot and do business. So keep that in mind, that Bible study there. Very good. It's I find it really interesting. Some people, but I'm trying to read it so that I can help explain it to you a little bit. And this past week, when we started, we got really just rolling in there and we're going really well. And then all of a sudden, this guest came on, and it was Chris Hapatobi, the author. And he came on, and we had the rest of our meeting, about another 45 minutes. He came on, and he talked to us about that chapter and about the work that they did on it and visiting people, Canada and the United States, and how he just shared openly about it. So Chris was there. I imagine I'll give him a message to Danny, and maybe he'll join us here in the future as well. So, but Chris is going to be on a trip for a few weeks, and he says when he comes back, he'll make another appearance as well. Next week, we're going to have Undoing Manifest Destiny. Yeah. Dr. Dan Hawk from Indiana. He's a professor there. Ohio, I'm sorry. Ooh, boy. On there. Yeah, shaker down there. Right. Good thing I wasn't talking football. Boy, we'd be in big trouble then. Yeah, but Dan, known him for quite a few years. Way back when I was first getting rolling here with Contextual Ministry, a church out there invited myself and Kimberly Medicine Horn to do a talk out there in that time. And the two of us gave our presentations, and that's when we kind of first met Dan at that time. And now he's been very active. He's now working with the First Nations version on the Old Testament. So they're working to do the full Old Testament in the First Nations version. Quite a job there. They're going to be at it for another few years on that now too. So that's coming up. And then on this, the 30th, Monday the 30th, we're going to have our prayer night. And that night, we don't record. We do some of our opening programming here, our liturgy and our songs, and then we go into a prayer time. So if you come on, you can join us on there on Zoom, just knowing that it's kept private to our group here, and we do have a time of prayer during that time. Other than that, it's been kind of slow, but I've been working really hard at getting the speakers lined up so I got all of next month all ready to go here, different ones, and I think I even got a few into June already. So got a good lineup of different people, very high quality speakers that are coming down our way. So, and tonight we have Ryan, who's going to be our speaker as well. So with that, I just want to make the announcement here in my hand here. You can see, I'll try to bring them up there. We now have these stickers. Lots of people love stickers. They like water bottles and like putting them on everything. So these stickers are available now. And we were wondering, how can we get those to you? Because once I started showing them, somebody would say, I want a few. I want this one. I want that one. And I said, well, maybe send your request to the email. What's that email there, Brian?
It's GMW for abq@gmail.com.
Yeah.
That's the letters GMW for Good Medicine Way, the number 4, and then the letters ABQ for Albuquerque. So GMW for abq@gmail.com.
So yes, if you want those, give us an email, and then we'll send you a letter with these in there, and we'll cover the postage on that. 45 cents, is it now? Yeah, so we can. No. We'll do that, and we'll get these. More. We'll get those to you, and with the forever stamps, I think they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want that, that's what we'll do for you. Other than that, we'll go into our giveaway time. That's the time when we take our offering. Just same thing, only different terminology that we use in it, just trying to be a little bit more culturally sensitive to the Native American point of view and that. So the giveaway is when we give. And so that's the time when we take our offering. So here in person here, we have a blanket on the ground in front of us here, a Four Directions blanket, like similar to the picture that you see behind me, but there's one on the ground in front of us here. And when we do the song, people walk up individually there, raise your gift to the Creator, and then place it on the blanket. That's the way we do that offering time. So with that, I want to turn it over to Brian here, who'll tell you a little bit how to give electronically and other ways.
Yeah, so for all of you online, I'll be putting a digital blanket up on the screen. There's a couple QR codes on that. One is PayPal specific in case you need that. But if you don't, use the other QR code that has our logo on it, because then everything that you give comes to us without us having to pay any fees to anybody else. If you prefer not to give online or not able to give online, our mailing address will also be up on the screen. So you can send a good old-fashioned check or money order that way, or if you have non-monetary things that you'd like to share with us, you can send them to that address as well. People have shared blankets and smudges and flutes and all kinds of things. So if there's something non-monetary, you can send it to us that way. If you have like a skill or a talent, or you just want to be more involved in what we're doing here at Good Medicine Way and are not sure how to go about that, just send us an email. Again, that email is gmw@gmail.com. And let's start a conversation. We love building community and creating opportunities for people to step into. So we'd love to have that conversation with you. And without any further ado, let me get the blanket up. And I believe Casey mentioned that we do have a matching grant right now. So anything that you do give financially is doubled. So it's a great time to do it.
All right, we'll have our song, and afterwards I got one more announcement. Behind me.
Create in me a clean heart, O God. Let me be like you in all my ways. Give me your strength. Teach me your song. Shelter me in the shadow of your wings. For we are your righteousness. If we've died to ourselves and lived through your death, then we shall be born again to be blessed in your love. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Let me be like you in all my ways. Give me your strength. Teach me your song. Shelter me in the shadow of your wings. For we are your righteousness. If we've died to ourselves and lived through your death, then we shall be born again to be blessed in your love.
All right, the announcement that I forgot to do here is that we're getting ready to bring out our next newsletter, and We try to be on a quarterly basis, but if we don't quite make it, it's kind of like the clock on the wall. We don't go by that either. Ceremony, when we start, ceremonies start when we're ready, and ceremonies end when we're done. So, same with the newsletter. When it's ready, it goes out. But it is a nice one. Got some nice graphics on here, some nice pictures, and good stories in here as well that are coming up with different folks. And an introduction to the book that we're reading as well here. So I'll share that little picture with you. If you can see me on there, you can see here's the front page. Our newsletter is called In Context. In Context. So because our ministry is contextual, our editor here, he came up with that. Let's call this In Context. Good Minutes Way. Walking together in Creator's harmony. So if you'd like to get that, you can go to our website, and there's a hold down that you can sign up to have this newsletter electronically sent to you. So that's a good way to get it. We do mail out a few of them for folks that do not have that capacity as well. But yeah, so if you like that, go ahead and send that off to us, and we'll make sure that you get one. All right, we're going to go to reading our scripture here. Helen Wright, who comes to us from South Bend, Indiana, up your way there, up there. So she's going to be reading Psalms 44, 23 through 26, Exodus 2, 23 through 25, Lamentations 5:20. All right, Helen.
Okay, this kind of reminds me of the Bible drills where we'd hold our Bibles up, they'd give us a passage, and we see who could look it up fastest because we're going all over. I wanted to share something I just noticed quickly. We had Vince Bantu come and visit us last fall, and I just got a message that he has hit his goal for publishing his book. So if any of you have ordered it, it will be coming. That's wonderful. And I also wanted to comment on your thought of the clock, the countdown clock you were talking about. If any of you are fans of Wicked, either the stage show or the movie, there's this very sinister dragon clock that's hanging over Oz and Shiz University, and it's very, very creepy. And if you read the book, it's even worse. So you're not the only one who's creeped out by a clock. In fact, no, and I'm so glad you don't have that at Good Medicine Way. Anyway, with no further ado, I'm going to start with the scripture readings. Okay, so first, Psalm 44, 23 through 26. Wake, Lord, why are you asleep? Awake, do not abandon us for good. Why do you turn your face away, forgetting that we are poor and harassed? For we are bowed down to the dust and lie prone on the ground. Arise, come to our help, ransom us as your faithful love demands. Next, from Exodus chapter 2, verses 23 through 25. During this long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites, groaning in their slavery, cried out for help, and from the depths of their slavery, their cry came up to God. God heard their groaning. God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God saw the Israelites and took note. And last, we have Lamentations 5:20. Look, Yahweh, I am in distress. My inmost being is in ferment. My head turns over inside me. How rebellious I have been. Outside, the sword bereaves. Inside, it is like death.
Stillness time here with the native flute, and after that I'll introduce our speaker. speaker tonight comes here by way of Indiana, Indianapolis. Some time ago, got a chance to meet him there, and we got talking about how he came out this way to see us, fell in love with the area, and then now he is out here as a pastor. He pastors the Gallup United Methodist Church and also the Grants United Methodist Church. And tonight he drove in from that area to be with us, and we're just kind of blessed that he's here. This is Ryan Remington. He's a student working on an MDiv. He's pastoring here, and he's on a health kit too. Yeah. So we're that was a big conversation at our mealtime over here, and how we're all trying to get healthy. So, and also he'll tell us a little bit about his wife, who is in second trimester now. Ryan?
Hi, I'm Ryan. I've got a big voice, Brian. Do I need to be closer to the mic? Is it good?
No, you're good.
All right, cool. Casey said that it has been slow, which is exactly the reason that I'm here. He didn't have anybody else to reach out to because he booked them all for when it's busy. My wife and I moved out here in June of last year, and it has been an adventure ever since. And we are blessed and excited to be here. My wife is now in her second trimester of our first pregnancy, a pregnancy that was not supposed to happen. All of our doctors, for our whole adult lives as individuals and our whole kind of married life, told us that we would never have kids. And she's pregnant. So that was a thing, or that is a thing, I should say. Tonight, I want to talk to y'all about potentially one of my weirdest thoughts. And I'm about 103% positive that folks ain't going to like my weird thought. But I want to ask you tonight to sit with this thought. And then when I get done yammering and we have a conversation about it, I do want to present some questions to keep the night going longer. So I can play with the shaker some more. I'm not asking anyone at any point to agree with anything that I say. I'm asking you, though, to interrogate why you disagree with what I say. So, I do want to start tonight with a question. It's a rhetorical question, and we're just going to sit with it for a minute and then move on. Has there ever been a time in your life when you've prayed and felt like the sky was concrete? Most of us have been taught one way or another that if God feels absent, that is our problem. We didn't pray right. We didn't believe hard enough. We are carrying something that is blocking that signal between us and God. The silence is our fault. I want to suggest something different. What if the silence is real? What if God was somewhere else? So I've been working on a new book called Somewhere Between Supernovas and Sparrows. And the whole thing is built around this idea that I've named theology of divine neglect. And I know that sounds rather alarming, the idea that God could be neglectful, but if you stay with me, I think naming that might be one of the most honest things that I've ever tried to say about God, and I think one of the most honest things that we as a community could ever say about God. And I just briefly want to walk through some of the bones of it tonight with you. This was born out of being misnamed for most of my life. For longer than I care to remember, I've been called the prodigal son. And that never felt right. I felt like the lost coin in the parable right before that. The lost coin is a coin. In this Lucan triad, you have a sheep that wanders, a coin that gets lost, and a boy who leaves. The sheep has some level of agency. It can move on its own. It can go where it chooses to go. The boy obviously has agency. The coin doesn't. Coins cannot choose where to go. So when a coin gets lost, someone loses the coin. And in thinking through this, for most of my life, I've come to a conclusion that I don't believe in the God of flawless management. I believe in the God who can drop things. And I think that really speaks to a much larger idea, and that is that love requires attention. And attention cannot be focused in two places at once. Now, that is the claim. That's the idea. And I think the Bible backs it up. So I'd like to read Psalm 44. I'm sorry, we had Psalm 44 read. And in that, it's important to kind of hear what's actually being said. It opens the verses that were read tonight with "Rouse yourself. Why do you sleep, O Lord?" The psalm isn't saying, "Lord, help us for the many sins we've committed." It doesn't say, "Show us what we've done to deserve this." If you read the whole psalm, the first part of it is the people saying, "We've been faithful. We haven't forgotten you. We haven't broken the covenant. We've been doing everything right, and yet you're still quiet." So they don't ask what they did wrong. Instead, they accuse God of sleeping. Rouse yourself is not a metaphor. It's not polite. It's not religious language. It's people telling God to wake up. Now, if you look at particularly American Christianity, we have spent a lot of time explaining why God isn't asleep. Because if God is asleep, then that creates a problem. It threatens kind of this whole system of belief that we've developed. We say that instead of sleeping, God is testing us. We say that God is acting in mysterious ways. We say that God's ways are higher than our ways, and we say you can't understand the plan. But nobody told that to the psalmist writing this. Because the psalmist very clearly articulates, you're asleep, and you need to wake up. So, as somebody who really holds on to what's called process theology, the idea that's kind of at the core of this thing that I'm trying to develop says, what if God is actually inside time with us? Not that God is watching from above, not that God is outside of time and space, and not that God is, sitting on a hilltop watching the road unfold before him. But what if God is actually in this with us and capable of focusing attention on something, which implies something else is not seen? There was a 20th century French philosopher named Simone Weil. who wrote that genuine attention requires the complete suspension of the self in order to see the other. There was an American psychologist who really pioneered American psychology named William James that argues that any mind that attends to everything equally attends to nothing. Consciousness always has a focal point, an interest, and by definition, that means that there are things that consciousness is not interested in. And this isn't a bug. This is how consciousness works. But that really starts to open up some questions. If God genuinely knows this world by attending to it, and if attention by its very nature is selective, then God's attention, while being current, is also partial. And that partiality is not a failure. It's what makes the attention real when the attention is focused on you. The idea is that God's heart is infinite, God's attention is not. So for the psalmist, right, this isn't bad theology. It's very honest. And it's the most accurate thing someone can say when they know that they've been faithful. And the silence is still there. As was read earlier in Exodus, we have this sequence of events. King of Egypt dies. Israelites groan under their slavery and cry out. That cry gets to God. God hears it. God remembers his covenant. And then God looks upon the Israelites and takes notice of them. They cry out, God hears, God remembers, God looks, and then God acts. So, if God already knew everything that was ever going to happen and had already planned out the whole of the Exodus narrative, then this sequence means nothing. This sequence, if everything is pre-planned, is a lie. But I think that the sequence means something. I think that the words are doing real work, and they're describing the idea that God's attention is elsewhere. And the cry of the people did something to bring God's attention back. And God remembers. And God turns and liberates the people. Because the people refused to stop crying, God could not continue not seeing them. The important Hebrew word in this section is zakar. And it means to remember, but not the way that we think of remembering. I have the world's worst memory and retention and recall. And that's not what this is talking about. It's not talking about storing information and coming back to it later. It's talking about action that comes from memory. So in this sequence, God remembers and then does something. The memory is not just cognitive retrieval, it's the return of attention. And I think that this is what lament is for. God being present means that God understands that there is suffering. Lament is not telling God that suffering exists. Lament is the act of calling God's attention to specific suffering. Lament is the tool that the forgotten have to refuse to stay forgotten. And the cool thing about this is the idea of lament, the idea of being able to call attention back, inherently implies relationship. And relationships are real, they're costly, and they are not predictable. So when you're honest with God, when you raise those laments, when you cry out, that is you participating in real relationship. Now, one thing I didn't put on the list, and I'm reading from the First Nations version, which you can pick up from, is that InterVarsity Press? Yep, InterVarsity Press. This is the Psalms and Proverbs edition. I'm going to read Psalm 88 for you. Grandfather, my creator and the one who sets us free, as the sun and moon circle the sky, I come before you and cry out with a loud voice. Hear my prayer as I send my voice to you. Bend low and listen to my cries of desperation. For misery wraps around my soul more than I can bear. I stand face to face with the dark underworld of death. I am numbered among those who are going down to the pit. All my strength fades away, leaving me like a shadow at sunset. I have been cast out with the dead, like one pierced by arrows left lying in the grave. I am among those you have forgotten and are beyond your help. You have put me at the bottom of the pit, deep into the darkness of the pit of death. Like crashing waves, your anger rolls over me and pushes me deeper into the depths. My friends stay far away from me because you have made me an object of horror in their sight. I am like a caged animal that cannot escape. The weight of my suffering pushes the light from my eyes, grandfather. Day after day, I send my voice to you and spread out my hands to you in prayer. Do you perform wonders in the world of the dead? Will ghostly shadows rise to make you known? Do those in the grave speak of your love that remains trustworthy and true? Will your faithfulness be made known in the place of destruction? Will darkness tell of your wonders? Does your justice shine in the land where all is forgotten? Grandfather, I call out to you and send my voice to you as the sun rises each morning. Oh, grandfather, why have you rejected me and turned your face away? From my youth, I have been weak and at the door of death. I have braved your terrors for too long. I am a man without hope. Your burning anger has consumed me, and your terrors have swept over me. Like the waters of a raging flood, they whirl around me from sunrise to sunset and surround me on every side. You have removed all of my relatives from my circle. Now darkness is my only companion. It's important that this psalm particularly be named because there's no resolution in this psalm. It opens in darkness and closes in darkness, and in between, it's crying, it's accusing, it's addressing a God that does not appear to be responding. The Psalms are not a single moment of prayer for the Hebrew people. They're a practice. And this practice insists that you keep going, not because you believe that the letter you're writing will be responded to in time, but because stopping the writing means that you are willing to let it go. In Job, we see that Job's friends come with explanations. They have frameworks and theologies and insist that suffering makes divine sense in some larger architecture. Job tells them to be quiet. Job speaks. As hopeless as it is, come what may. And the verdict at the end of the book is not ambiguous. Job speaks what is right, and his friends who defend God against Job's accusations are wrong. The one who accuses God is vindicated. The ones who protect God are not. It's important to say this. If this theological framework that I'm working through is true, and I very much believe it is, then anger at God is not a failure of faith. Anger at God is the most honest faith that we can practice. The psalmist's accusation that God is asleep is not a spiritual detour on the way to trust. It is trust. It's a particular kind of trust that refuses to let a relationship end because you can't accuse what you've abandoned. I think that a lot of us have been trained to think of silence toward God as the reverent option. Because rage, accusation, condemnation are dangerous, and they feel like they cost us something. Like God will somehow think less of us if we speak our truth. The question is, what happens then when God comes back, when focus and attention return? I think that's grace. Because God arrives at a scene that has been shaped by God's absence, the return is a move of grace. Remembrance is a move of grace. But I think that puts the burden of remembering on faith traditions and faith communities. Because if there's one suffering in our midst and their cry is not reaching the divine, what about all of our cries on their behalf? If God doesn't seem to be remembering or paying attention or focusing on their suffering, what if it's our responsibility to do so in God's wake? I think that we are called as a people to refuse to let those who feel forgotten remain forgotten. And that's what I got.
All right, go into a reflection time. And afterwards, we'll go into the question and response. It'll be led by Brian. So we'll take some time and think of your questions and reflections that you want to bring up.
Hey, sorry, is this not the sharing time?
It'll be right after the flip.
All right. This is going to be a big conversation, I feel like. But a couple caveats I'd like to throw into the mix before we get going is that one, we're talking about things that none of us can really know because we're in our finite reality and we don't really know fully what's in the spirituality, and there is no way for us to But regardless of how we think things in the spiritual realm work, regardless of how we think God is working and how God interacts with us, regardless of which of those options is the reality, it all feels the same to us from our perspective. So I think that's important to acknowledge that whether or not God is hearing, whether or not God is asleep, it feels that way to us. So I think that's important to acknowledge that. And the other thing I want to throw out there, because you're challenging pillars of American theology, which is built on the idea that God is omniscient, God's omnipotent, and God is omnipresent. And of course, you're saying maybe that's not the case.
I would say that God's omnipresent,
Okay.
and I'll stop there.
Okay. But I know that's going to rattle a lot of people, but I would also say consider the alternative as you're thinking about your questions and comments. Consider the alternative of what Ryan has brought forward. So if we're going to insist that God is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, and yet we still have these very horrible things that happen in our world, that has to mean then that God is somehow choosing to let those horrible things happen. So, so I just want us to be honest about what we're putting forth and to really kind of think through how we feel God is moving and acting, what God's heart is, and how does that all work. And I mean, really, these topics have been debated for millennia by theologians. So I don't expect that we're going to get any concrete answers, but I think it's good for us to have discussions because they're meaningful for our own walk and trying to live in harmony. All right, so Twilight, go ahead.
You opened my eyes to a different place that I can now understand a little bit better. Throughout my life, I was taught, like everyone else, if you're a bad little girl, you're not going to heaven. If you're a bad teenager, you're never going to succeed. You have to do this, and this in order to please God enough that he'll take you and accept you. But I never felt that because I knew God loved me regardless, because I didn't know any better and I would do wrong. But the main thing that I was taken back to when you said that, what if God's just busy, kind of? When you're a mother and you have 4 kids, 2 years apart, and you are trying to give each one of them attention they require, and you think you are until they grow up. And then they're slapping you every day. Where were you?
This is comforting. I need to know this stuff for when our daughter's born.
What about when I did this?
I have 4.
Where were you at? Mom, no, you weren't there for me. As they're all of my children are 50 and above now. And I still feel like that 20-something-year-old mother with these 4 little children that I'm trying to guide and help them to find their path in the way of the Lord. I didn't beat them down with, the stuff I was taught. But still, I knew God would take care of it. And there were times I felt God is far from me. And there were people in the church that said, well, you're not praying enough. Well, what have you not been doing? Have you not been pleasing your husband? Have you, and I would kind of internalize that. And then but I knew, no, that is not what's wrong. So thinking about God giving someone else attention that they need it more than I do right now. When we moved to Albuquerque, I was 30, and our oldest child was 13, all the way down to 7. And we came to pastor a very small congregation church because my husband had gone to school. He had devoted his life to a ministry. I, along with him, did. And that ministry only lasted 3.5 years before he got very disenchanted with the way you have to do. And I feel really bad now that he's not here anymore, that he was not given the freedom to talk about like what you just did. No, you didn't do anything wrong. God hasn't abandoned you. But 3.5 years in, and I'll make it short as I can, my husband said, I'm done. I can't pastor. I can't even control my own kids. I cannot lead God's children. They were all teenagers by getting there. And I, of course, fought and said, but no, honey, no, that's not true. God still has his hand on you and me. No, we can't just turn our back. Well, he did. So therefore, I had to choose or make a decision. Do I continue a forward battle of attending church the way I was taught to attend church? He wasn't raised in Christianity, so he didn't have the roots I did. Or do I quit going and be with him? I chose to be with him. So for 20 years, my worship time was on my own, on the way to work, on the way home from work, and Saturday morning, get up and see the sun up. I never really felt like God wasn't with me in those 20 years of not worshiping the way I was told this is how you should worship. So when you said that, it made me very comforted to know that I didn't have to start over when he died. Right away, I got back in church the month after he died. And I think I might have missed just very few services because I know what I need to do to honor God. I don't always feel him right here, but he's still there.
Thank you for sharing.
So, opened my brain.
Thank you.
All right, I do see your hand, Helen, but I want to go to Sarah first because her internet connection's been dodgy, and I want to make sure she gets to say her thing just in case her internet gets funny again. So go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. Sorry for interrupting earlier and not listening to directions. I wanted to know if you could clarify. You had said something at the very end of your talk there about like not forgetting the forgotten people or something like that. And I think I missed something. Could you clarify what you were talking about?
Yeah, so I think that kind of in this framework, in this line of thinking, I think that the job, the call, the responsibility of faith communities, faith traditions, is to be the ones who remember. Like again, if someone feels like that attention is not on them, then it is the community's responsibility to call attention to that individual. Because, if that individual's voice is not loud enough to bring that attention back, then the community surrounding them cries out with them. I believe that again, faith traditions, faith communities, that we are called to not forget what has been forgotten. And so in that means, we continue to stand in solidarity with those who feel like they aren't heard, who feel like they aren't seen, who feel like they don't have God's attention for whatever reason.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. I also wanted to say that yes, your thought is abrasive at first, but it's like, okay, let's just hold out and see what you've got to say. Because there, I feel like there's a lot of meat in the topic of relationship and how like you've got to have that there's give and take and there's flexibility and there's multifaceted aspects to it. And Jesus came as man and God. So if you're man and God, then you have all of the limitations that we as humans have. So there's got to be adjoining there, right? So I'm thinking on what you just shared, and I still also have these thoughts of like, nope, he's here all the time. He hears everything. He's not like ignoring me at all. Nor can he. And I also had a thought too, like all these verses were from the Old Testament. And so I wonder, where is the New Testament in your thought processes there?
Yeah, I think that kind of the most glaring example in the New Testament is Jesus on the cross shouting out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Right, that's not genuine, if Jesus does not feel forgotten in that moment, if Jesus does not feel forsaken in that moment, then that is theater at best, which is manipulation.
A rebuttal. It makes me think of Moses on the mountain where he sees God's backside, right? And I guess I had a thought and then it kind of disappeared. So I guess I'm having internet connection issues and brain connection issues, but I feel like there's something else to be said about that. Anyway, thank you for the time. Thanks for
Yeah.
being here.
All right, go ahead, Helen.
Thank you. I remember I used to be a fan of a singer named Rich Mullins, and shortly before his death, he had an album that had to be carried out by his companions. And he had a song called Hard to Get that kind of got at this, where he felt like God is up in heaven playing hard to get. You know, I'm praying, I'm trying to do everything I can to reach out to you, and I feel so abandoned. And I think that came back to me with what you were saying tonight. I remember I was listening to it at a tough point in my life where that's where I felt. But I remember some things that I learned from that we're allowed to question Creator, that we're allowed to reach out and reconnect with the Creator, that and we're not necessarily in the wrong. In fact, the disconnect may not even be our fault or even Creator's. It may just be our life circumstances. I know part of staying in relationship with the people we love is sometimes leads to painful choices with painful loyalties. And like when I was hearing Twyla talk about it, I can only imagine how torn you could feel in a situation like that, trying to satisfy everyone, and you feel the cracks forming in you as you're being torn by different sides. But I think there is some peace to know that this is a normal part of relationship. It's a normal enough part that it made it into the Bible, that we are, I guess to me, it seemed really affirming that just because we're in a hard time doesn't mean that we are in the wrong. It may just mean that we're going through something. It may be a preparation. Um, it may be a lot of things, but I think I could probably meditate on that a lot more, but I just wanted to share what I had so far, and thank you for bringing the topic to the forefront.
Rich Mullins is a very important part of my family's story. Every year on Christmas morning, my dad would wake us up with, you got to get up, you got to get up. It's Christmas morning, that song. Shortly before we left Indiana, I became really good friends with a gentleman who used to spend every Christmas with Rich. The conversations that they had, that he shared with me, were absolutely beautiful because they were so just open and raw. When we talk about difficulty in relationship or the difficulties of relationship, I mean, my wife and I got into an argument before I drove here. And it's, that doesn't mean I love her less, right? She had hard things to say to me. I had hard things to say to her. Pregnancy hormones are apparently real and not a fabrication.
They are.
But so, when talking about relationship, there has to be the trust and openness to be honest. And if that honest is saying, hey, you're being an idiot right now, you're not thinking logically right now. That's not what I said to her, by the way. Don't hear that. She says that to me on a daily basis. But yeah, so it's just, process theology really digs into the idea of a fully relational God. And that was revelatory for me when I found it.
Kind of getting back to your previous point that, like Sarah asked for clarification on, and I think about what we are called to do, and I think again you have the thing of regardless of what we think is going on in the spiritual realm and all that, the call to those of us who say that we are following Creator and trying to walk in His ways is very clear, and I think Matthew 25 underscores what you said perfectly, where what marked the people who were truly walking with Creator was that they went after the forgotten, they went after the downtrodden, they went after the people who had been trampled by society. That is God's clear calling for all of us who follow Him, is to go after the neglected and go after the forgotten,
Yes.
and to show them God's love. And I think, to your point, if we felt like, well, God's just omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, He can just take care of all this. Why does He need me to do it? And that's a whole other theological discussion we could have. But the Bible is clear that God calls us to do that. For whatever reason you want to ascribe to it, but it is very clear that that's what we're called to do.
Yeah, and that's so. Again, I'm writing a book about this that goes through kind of the major perceived pushbacks for this, and I keep coming back to a phrase over and over again: everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody over here whisper, "It's Calvinism." That's where the idea comes from, is Calvin. And even for those who aren't a part of the Reformed tradition, that has thoroughly worked its way through the fabric of
This culture.
of where we are as a society today. And I brought up briefly this idea of the lost coin in Luke 15, and it's important to note that Luke 15, 8 through 10, that's the story of the lost coin. The woman who loses the coin, she throws a party, invites the whole neighborhood because she found what had been lost, and she admits that she lost it. And the party is the restoration or the repentance moment of that, mirroring the party in heaven. And it's one of those situations to where I think that when we talk about particularly the way that this idea of everything happens for a reason, it'll all work out, let go and let God, whatever these things are, the woman tears apart her house looking for this coin. And again, so in the Luke, 15 triad, there's this idea, right, that the individual searching is the God figure in the parables. But if somebody doesn't feel as though they're being looked for, that they're being searched for as a community, going to the Matthew 25 thing, it is our responsibility to look, to search, to tear apart the house to find them. So.
That's that re-membering of the person. I like that way of spelling it rather than remembering. It's remembering into a community.
I see what you did there. That's nice.
I've read that and I've heard that idea somewhere. I can't say from where.
Yep.
Do you mind if I share this really quick? It's not, I just read this today, and I feel like to me it ties in with what you're saying. This is from the CAC, and he says, the story is an angel was walking down the streets of the world, carrying a torch in one hand and a pail of water in the other. A woman asked the angel, "What are you doing with that torch and that pail?" The angel said, "With the torch I'm burning down the mansions of heaven, and with the pail I am putting out the fires of hell. This is the only way we will ever know who really loves God." It's when that playing field is leveled and we're doing it for love and not for reward or punishment. I just thought that was a really wonderful idea. It's like the concrete ceiling, and you have to somehow break through or grab God out of the cloud and bring him down to someone that you can relate to. A lot of what you said made a lot of sense to me.
Thank you. I like that as well, the pail of water and the torch.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Sherry.
Hi, Ryan, thank you so much for sharing. You do believe that God is omnipresent, correct? So, and I think you mentioned that he is in with it with us. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I believe that God exists within time.
Okay, real time.
Yep.
And I appreciate this subject because I've gone through a long period of time where I really did feel like God was silent. I want to do this without crying. And between the end of the Old Testament and then beginning of the New Testament, God was silent to his people for 400 years. And that's a long time to go without the word. They didn't have easy access to scriptures the way that we do. So seeking him came through traditions and stories and passed down revelations from the prophets. And I think that we forget that he does say that all things work together for our good. But it doesn't really say our good, that all things work together for good for those who love him. And so what we go through while we're experiencing his silence may be good for someone else that we may never know the reason for what we're going through. Would you agree with that?
No.
That's my personal experience. No? Okay. I would like to hear what you have to say.
I mean, I don't want to discount what you believe. That is 100% your belief. Again, I'm not asking anybody to believe like I do. But in saying that the hell you are experiencing will benefit somebody else at some point later in time and you will never know about it, I don't find that to be comforting on any level. And that's almost on some level kind of borderline victim blaming, that if I can't see the good in what I'm experiencing or how this could be used for good in what I'm experiencing, I am a being that exists in the moment that is happening. I do not exist 20 years down the road. I did exist 20 years ago, but mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I'm right here and right now. And the slave traders for chattel slavery were notorious for developing what's called the slave Bible, in which all aspects of liberation were removed. And they told those enslaved peoples that it does not matter what I do to your body now, that I can beat you, I can take you to death's door, because, right, whatever happens right now pales in comparison to what's going to happen in the afterlife. So just believe that this will work out for your benefit. And so any idea that kind of reinforces this way of, well, what you're going through now, or tries to minimize what somebody's going through now because of what could potentially come out of it, I don't find that to be particularly helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I want to say something just for a little, buddy, collect yourself here. Good Medicine Way is exactly what we're doing right now. I've listened to 1,000 sermons, and you probably have too, but we've never had a chance to interact with the speaker at a sermon. What we're doing right now is what I call discipleship making. You're growing because you're questioning. You're growing because you're hearing another thought. You're processing in a way that's going to take you down your spiritual road another length. When I sat through those 1,000 sermons, I just think, where would I be if I could have questioned in my 20s? Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to be 69 here soon, and it's like, where would I be if I could have been, my discipleship could have grown way earlier than it did. So I'm throwing that in there because Good Medicine Way is exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah, and before we get to Josh, I would throw in there, I don't think what you're saying and what Sherry is saying are necessarily mutually exclusive. I think that you can acknowledge that God does work out all things for good ultimately, but I also agree that that is no comfort for the person that's going through suffering. So they're kind of like, that's a good concept, but that's not a concept that you tell someone who's in the middle of suffering. Like, it's not helpful.
Well, I think the idea that God works everything out, again, that kind of presupposes an omniscience, right? That there's a divine plan of some sort. That this is all heading somewhere. And again, a lot of this was born out of process theology. And in that, right, God is present in the moment and the future is genuinely open.
Yeah, well, I don't think God working out everything for the good doesn't leave the future unopened. Like, you don't have to look at it like in a Calvinist kind of way when you say God works out everything for the good. That just means we know that God's heart is compassionate and that no matter what happens, he's going to work that for good. That doesn't necessarily say that he's already has everything mapped out and knows everything that's going to happen or whatever. It just says that in the moment, God is going to try to work things for the good. And to our earlier point, I think that most of the work that God does is through the people who say that they are following him, rather than from some, super natural perspective on it. But I just want to, like, again, because of things that we're talking about, we can't fully know because they're beyond our realm of perception. Like a lot of the things that we're saying, I don't think are necessarily mutually exclusive. So I don't want people to get kind of like locked in to be like, well, I can't agree with any of that then, or whatever. Let's acknowledge that there's a lot of mystery in what we're talking about here, and be okay with that.
I'm willing to do that. If we don't take questions from Josh, he's too smart.
Too late.
Okay, he's out.
I was gonna say.
Too late.
All right, Josh.
Terrible. Hey, show everybody. Excellent. Hey Ryan, thanks again for sharing. It's been great listening to here. And like Uncle Casey said, it's one of the things I love about Good Medicine Way is the dialogue and the conversation we get to have around things. We get to bring thoughts to the table, to the circle, and discuss it. Definitely, I hear you. You definitely make some good things you wrestle with, and definitely some good points. That a lot of the blueprint kind of some of the Reformed theology are kind of open, closed blueprint theology worldview sometimes drives us up. And I'm just curious on some of your dialogue partners within this concept, because I know I've wrestled with similar questions. It landed in a slightly different place, but I was curious about some of your dialogue partners that you're kind of wrestling with on this.
I'm glad you asked that, sir. I have written the first draft of a book about all of this, and in the end notes of every chapter are all of the dialogue partners. I'll send you a PDF. No, I'm joking. So a lot of this, again, was shaped out of kind of process theology, and you're looking at Alfred North Whitehead, John Cobb, Bruce Epperly, Charles Hartshorne, like those fellas. But like there's aspects of this where I really work through Vine Deloria. I've had conversations with Miguel de la Torre about hopelessness and what that looks like. I tried to find as large of a group of people to kind of bounce my ideas off of in terms of, and kind of going back to what Brian said real quick, I'm the kind of, well, it's actually what Casey said. Brian touched on it too. But I'm the kind of person I learn best when I have something to push against. When I say I don't agree with that, then I have to figure out why I don't agree with that. And I have to shore up an argument or a position for why I don't. Again, I kind of spread it out to people that I would absolutely disagree with. And then people that I think start the idea that I continue to run with. I can get you a full bibliography though, probably tomorrow because it's going to be late when I get home.
That's fine. And if you do, I will read it. Like always in doing it. I was just curious on that one. That sounds good. Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for some of the more open theism folks rather than the process theologians themselves. I think open theism has a lot we can offer. And I definitely enjoy some of the early mystics of the church, and I think to me some of them kind of wrestle a lot with the same thing, right? It's a problem of pain. Ultimately, what you're wrestling with, how does that work? How does a good God allow suffering? And there's go through it. So I found some good sitting with for me in some of those camps of the mystics and in the open theism a little bit, or the warfare theologian. I'm thinking right now like Greg Boyd and some of those guys who wrestle with it, which I know kind of it's kind of a side sister, I guess you would say, to some of the more progressive theologians you named. So it's always interesting kind of learning from those who go a different direction. So.
Well, I deal with like Meister Eckhart and John of the Cross and some other mystics. And there's when I was 13, I told my mother that I wanted to die. And I was completely serious. I wanted to kill myself. Because the faith tradition that I had grown up in told me that I was never enough. I was never good enough. I was never X, Y, or Z enough, right? And my mom's response to I want to kill myself was, you don't need medicine, you need more Jesus. And so there's, I'm forgetting the terms now, but mystics, right? It's preparation or something else. I don't remember the other P. But this idea, right, of either you're being formed for something, or you're being formed for what's beyond the darkness, or you're being formed for the darkness. So I deal with that as well. I mean,
Depends on your mystic tradition, I guess you would say.
yeah.
Because there's different traditions within the Christian mysticism, right? So I would lean, and you're right though, but you're there. I mean, I think John of the Cross does some of that, where again you're kind of being, they talk about that formness, which you push back in. I guess the mystics I love is more along the lines of being able to be one with him and see him in the moment. Kind of the spot of that one, the oneness of it, rather than just a preparation. Because you're right, some of the other stuff just sits hollow, and a lot of the traditions we have, like you, there's a lot of stuff I grew up with or was taught later in life that you just want to make you throw up. You're like there's no life in that. So good. Well, I look forward to seeing your dialogue. I don't want to go too much, other way we will have a longer dialogue. Thank you for sharing some of your conversational partners and stuff. I think it's always good to be able to kind of see some influences and stuff as we wrestle in community, and being able to share it with each other as we go on this journey of life.
Yeah, and when that book comes out, we will have him back to introduce that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have another good round.
One other thing I want to toss in there is that years ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who had suffered some pretty horrendous sexual abuse in her time. And she was saying that, there was all these people that would tell her that, God has a plan, this will all work out for good, and, God's got everything in control and all that. And she said it was creating a rift between her and God, because the idea of her remembering back to when the abuse was happening, the idea that God could have done something but chose not to, was making her flee from God. And she said the thing that brought her back was when she read the story about Lazarus, and that Jesus wept. And that brought her healing, not the idea that God was powerful. So, and go ahead, Jamie.
Hello. Well, it's nice to meet you, Ryan. You're one of those people that constantly pops up on Facebook, for recommended friends, and I'm like, who is this guy? So I'm glad to finally meet you. But this is obviously a very thought-provoking conversation, very interesting, and I do appreciate several of the points you made. Particularly in the very beginning, you talked about how when we feel distance from God, traditionally it's like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with God, then you must be the problem, kind of thinking, and I think the church definitely needs to get away from that. I mean, whether or not we all agree on all of these details, we need to stop shaming people for their human struggles, period. And I've dealt with that, all the regulars here at Good Medicine Way know that I've been struggling in my health. It's actually, even right now, it's hard for me to breathe while I'm talking, but I've been struggling with some very serious and mysterious health problems for, technically it's been 4 years, but the last 2 have been really, really constant and serious and just kind of miserable. In the last 16 or 17 months, I've been homebound. I haven't been able to leave my house and been pretty isolated other than my parents. They're the only, people I've been around. So it's been a dark hour for me. And up to this happening, up to about 2 years ago, most of my life, me and the Lord were really close. I felt his presence, heard his voice, saw visions, was just very connected with the Holy Spirit. And it was something I realized now that it's something I took for granted. I mean, I was always thankful, but you just never know how precious something is until it's gone. And then it's just like suddenly I was disconnected from the Lord. In addition to having these horrible health problems that just made my life miserable, I couldn't feel his presence. I couldn't hear his voice. Didn't know what to do. I had no sense of guidance. And then you hear all these people telling you all these different things, and a lot of it is just the traditional doctrines or cliche. A lot of cliche things have come up during this meeting, and that's like the last thing people want to hear is cliche expressions and things like that, but I just, from my personal experience, there were times when I was angry and times when I was bitter, times, I guess basically I've had to just, the serenity prayer, just accept what I can't change. And it's interesting because a couple of brothers in the Lord that I knew passed away during this time. And it was just interesting because they didn't deserve it. They were younger men that had families with young children, and they just suddenly die. And it's like, and it makes you question these things, and you don't have the answers. But I know that for me personally, it has definitely been a refining of the soul. It felt like everything was stripped away, and it made me realize things about myself. It made me realize things that I found identity in, things that I found that I depended upon, like what my faith was made out of. I realized that that my faith depended a lot in my emotions, in the things I could see, depending on, feeling the Lord's presence and those kinds of things, which I think is natural. But I feel like it has gone deeper. And that even I've come to a point, that I've realized that even if I don't feel God's presence, and even if I'm feeling angry and feeling all these things, that he is with me, and not just with me, but that he sees me and that he pays attention to me. And it doesn't matter how I feel. That's not what my faith is built on. So I feel like it's created within me an unshakability in my faith that wasn't there before. And I don't know why we have to go through these things, but I do think that there is a purpose, that he does use it, that it's not in vain. And I still don't see, exactly where this is going, but I do believe that God has a plan and that he's in control. But I just feel like, ironically, it's taken me deeper into his love, and that his love is the answer, and that we need to show believers more love, like when they're suffering, instead of just trying to fix things. I feel like that's what the faith movement, I've talked about it before here, that I was raised very much in that. And I don't think it's all bad. I think there's a lot of good things I've learned from it, but there's a lot of dysfunction in it. And I think it's very focused on fixing things. And then it's like when Christians who were raised with that mindset, when they can't fix it, then it's almost like sometimes they just discard you, or then they start turning it around like, well, maybe you have some sin in your life that caused this to happen. And it makes it so much worse, but I don't know exactly where I was going with that, just other than that. I do remember something I wanted to say, that, that there is also something to consider is, what goes on in the unseen in the spirit realm, because I will say I've started coming out of that place of being disconnected from the Lord in the last couple of months. And I'll say one thing that's really helped me come out of that place is community. So I think it's really important what you said about that we need to be responsible for, reaching out to people when they're suffering and just being there for them. And, last couple of months, because for a long time when I was homebound, after I started being homebound, that nobody talked to me. Like, a lot of people were telling me that they were praying for me, but nobody would actually check on me, just talk to me, and I didn't necessarily need them to have the answers or those the cliche expressions, just to talk to me and just be there. And, and so last couple of months, people have been talking to me, encouraging me, just kind of, even though they may not be here physically, but still doing life with me from a distance. And it's been such a blessing. And so I could sense things changing. And just a week or two ago, actually, a lady from Good Medicine Way had a suggestion. She said, why don't we do a 3-day fast together? I'm not able to fast food, but other things I could remove. And so we did it together. And one of her intentions in fasting with me was to remove the heaviness, because she felt like there was a spirit of heaviness. And there was, and that was part of what was blocking my ability to connect with God, was this heaviness. And so I believe that in some cases that there could be spiritual forces of darkness trying to oppress us, trying to keep us from being aware of God's face shining upon us, because it always is. And I even had a dream confirming this, probably 6 or 9 months ago. Let me get my breath here. I'll tell you briefly. I dreamed that there was a swarm of demons around me, just attacking me back and forth, and I was doing everything I could, and I was so exhausted, and it just kept going on and on and on. And then finally it just stopped all of a sudden, and I felt this gentle wind blow over me, the sweet presence of the Lord. And so, I just knew that was the Lord showing me what was going on in the spirit and what would happen. And so I've had to keep going on with that hope that there would be a breakthrough in the battle, and that God would break through, and I would finally come to the other side of it where I'd feel His presence again. But we have no idea the spiritual battles we're going through. But I think, Daniel confirms that in the story of Daniel, when he was praying. And the angel said, the Lord heard your prayer when you first started praying, but there was a battle going on in the heavenlies that was holding things back. So that's something to take into consideration, that we have no idea what's going on in the spirit realm that could be affecting us, our prayers being answered, and us, being able to feel the presence of God. So I just thought I'd share that, because that's my journey.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, Jamie, thank you for sharing. And I know that, maybe some of us don't communicate with you as much as we might be able to, but we are always thinking of you and definitely pulling for you that things will work out, because you've been through a lot. And I mean, for those of you who don't know the situation, she's been through a lot, and she's still in the midst of it. So, and we appreciate you being here and rallying up your strength to participate in the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate that. That really encourages me.
Okay, Pititaka, go ahead.
Reno.
All right. Sorry, I had to step outside for just a moment. I got 2 babies who caught my cold from when I came back from Colorado. So each one of them has a bit. My daughter has a cough, and my son has a stomach flu that I had when I was here when I got back. Altitude
A real
sickness
quick
is
question.
also a real thing. Sorry, what?
Oh, I said, can I ask a real quick question? You said you stepped outside.
Yeah, outside into here, let me show you.
Do you still have the squirrel?
Hey, oh my gosh, yes, she came back. We saw her just the other day and she was poking around here yesterday. Yeah, so she's around here. She's around here somewhere. Little Brittany squirrel that my daughter claimed.
That brings me joy.
Other
Thank
that, but yeah. So but yeah, Ryan, it's good to see you again. I'm glad that you were able to join in person. Thank you for making that little sacrifice to be there. I'm glad that Creator got you safely over there, and I pray that He gets you safely home. But so I only caught little bits and pieces of what you were sharing tonight. But from what it sounds like, you're talking about like when Creator doesn't um, is not right there with you in the midst of something that you're going through. Um, like what we heard from Jamie, what we heard from Twyla, what we heard from a few of our relatives here tonight. It seems like that might be the theme of what you mean by when God went quiet. I, like many of us, have experienced that same thing. I won't go into too many details, but I'm pretty sure many of us, even in our childhood or even in our adulthood, have experienced times when Creator did not seem like He was right there with us. Like even in this past week, I kind of felt that same way. Losing two of my uncles, one to suicide and one to sepsis. It seemed like Creator wasn't with us at the time, even though we knew that He was standing near us, that He was protecting the rest of our families as they were. Um, it still felt like I couldn't pray for a minute. So I understand, what it means to feel like Creator is not right beside you. Hey, that's why we have an empty chair here. Just kidding. But I was thinking a lot about like some quotes in my head as I was listening to everyone's stories and what they had to share about what you shared about. And so I thought, like when you're cooking, you can't exactly sit there and watch a pot boil, right? Because if you sit there and watch that pot boil, it's not going to boil. You have to step away for a minute. Or, for example, too, when Jamie was sharing her story, I feel like maybe there's people who go through different sicknesses because like it's just natural. Our human bodies, we get sick. But but it's like, what if Creator is still beside you, but He's allowing you a time to rest? Like, what if when He goes quiet, it's not because he's angry at you. It's not because you did something wrong. It's because you need to rest. Like how you were saying something about preparing, like you need to prepare for the next battle. Because we always go into battles. Creator gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors. So if you think about it maybe that way, when you don't have Creator right beside you, when you don't feel His presence, when you don't feel like you can pray or you can even speak to Him, if you have like your own doubts that you feel in your heart, what if it's just Creator allowing us the time to rest in preparation for the next battle? Because the next battle is always going to come, and that's when we need Him beside us the most, and that's when He will turn His face to us again. That's when He will be right there beside us where we can feel like His energy flowing through us. What if when He goes quiet, it's not because we did anything wrong, but it was because we needed to rest, or we needed to gather our thoughts, or get ready for the next part that's coming, the next blessing He's going to give us, the next round of I don't know, other things that need our strength, that we need to like prepare for. Like right now I'm sick, and like before this I was battling the cleanliness of my house. So I was battling the cleanliness of my house, and then I was battling spiritual things going on in my family. And then now I'm needed to rest. And right now I still pray. I still pray. I still talk with Creator. I still know that He's around, but I know that He's not exactly shining His light upon me right this moment. He's just giving me a moment to rest because maybe there's something bigger coming. And that's what I was kind of thinking about while I was listening to everyone share a little something like, what if we're not supposed to look at when God goes quiet as something that's bad, but as like a moment for us to rest and prepare, for the next thing that might be coming. And so like, yeah, that's just kind of my thought. That was just kind of what I was thinking. I don't know if that applies to anything that you were sharing tonight, but this is just kind of what I've gathered from bits and pieces. But it's just a different way to look at things, because I was looking at everyone and, I was scrolling through the page here, looking at everybody's face. And it was kind of funny because when Jamie was sharing earlier, everybody was sitting there like this. There was Uncle Casey, there was somebody like, deep in thought. And I thought that was just cute. Everybody had something like that going on a second ago. I loved it. But yeah, but yeah, just I want to encourage everybody too, like the postpartum depression thing. I almost killed Manuel. I'll be honest, I almost killed him. Postpartum is a real thing. Hormones, stuff like that, it's a real thing. So I'm thankful for the grace that Creator and all my loved ones who had to deal with my postpartum stuff. I'm thankful for the people who deal with my hormonal ways. I'm thankful for their grace and for Creator's grace. But yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. But yeah, so just to encourage everyone, even when you can't hear Creator, even when you can't feel His presence all around you, even when you feel that darkness and that depression coming over you, you're never really alone. You'll never be alone. Creator is just giving you that time to rest, time to learn something, time to soak in what, think about like those blessings that He's given you before, the times that He's pulled you out of that depression, the darkness. Think about all the times that He's been there for you and how He'll still be there with you, even if you don't believe it. Just keep praying, keep walking with Him, even if He's not walking right beside you. The footsteps in the sand is what I think about. Yeah, there's two footprints in the sand, and then when there's only one, it was because Creator was carrying you. And as people have brought up omnipresent, that means He's always around us. And like there's balance to everything. And even though we say those cliches like, all happened for a reason, this is what was supposed to happen, this is what God wanted, but at the same time, we have that free will. And so it's up to us to choose if we're gonna let it take us down, or if we're gonna stand up and fight again. Because it's real simple to just lay it all down like that. But at the same time, you have the choice to get up and get it done. But yeah, I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but just everyone just stay encouraged, stay lifted. Just know that Creator is, even if He's not right beside us, He's still in the background working on something. We're not supposed to be self-centered. We're not supposed to be just about ourselves and focusing on just ourselves. Creator has so many people to look over. He has so many lives that He's working in. He may be everywhere. He may be doing everything. He may be almighty, but sometimes He gives us time to rest. He gives us time to recoup, time to get on to the next fight we need to go do. So, but yeah, that's what I was thinking while we're all talking. So thank you for letting me speak, and yeah, Creator be with us all.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting that, like, the idea that we have battles to fight, implies that because God's not going to do everything.
Yeah.
So, we have our tasks before us to do. All right, go ahead, Cheryl.
Oh, my heart's beating fast. I'm nervous. Sorry. I just had a few thoughts. One thing, Casey, thank you for having a place that this popped up at me. Proverbs 27:17. I'm a little dyslexic. I hope I got that right. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I appreciate how we can all talk to each other, because that helps so much in so many ways. It helps relationships like a powwow would. We're having like an online powwow, drums and everything, dude. And then the other scripture that came to mind, Isaiah 55, 8. Lord, as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. And in my experience, I think heaven and hell are kind of like dimensions and they're all here and now. And I think God created time so he can step out of it and look down, and we're on a linear timeline. So we can only see as we're going along it, but he can step back and look down. But I think he allowed Jesus to walk with us on that linear timeline so we could access him more. And then Jesus could go back and forth with the, hey, raise Lazarus for me, Dad, you know? And something that came to my mind tonight through y'all talking that really helped me. I've been told a lot by over-religious people through my life, putting up with abuse and things. Oh, you're not submissive enough. You're not praying enough. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. And no, and then something came to mind. Look what happened to Jesus. He did nothing wrong. Literally perfect. And the over-religious words, oh, don't cuss, Cheryl, don't do it. Tried to kill him. And I don't think they did kill him. He gave up his spirit. And that's a thing where science has proven when you stab someone in the side, and that guy said, everyone else bled only water. He had blood and water. This truly was the Son of God. So he gave up his spirit. They did not kill him. And then he goes to hell and takes his time for 3 days walking up to the devil going, hey, hand me the keys to death. You know, devil's like, oh, here you go, dude, whatever. He's mad. And then supposedly Jesus asked, who wants to come with me and get out of here and stuff. And I can't help but wonder, there's such a battle for our souls. Why? There must be a reason. I mean, and of the third of the angels left, where did they go? And I'm not saying that's us, I don't know, but it's kind of weird. It's like we're being tested. Like, are we going to pass this test? And when I hear when God goes silent, oh, God, Cheryl, say this without crying. It's hard. One thing I've had to learn is, because he's, I know he's there all the time. He's proven I'm never alone. Proven it to me a million times. Talks to me through coincidence, dreams, visions, shows up and does stuff that's other people have been with me. Unbelievable, uncountable. I know I'm never alone, but there's times he goes silent. He's just not going to answer me on something, or I try and tell him what to do. And that's stupid. I'm a measly human. I'm not God. Why am I telling God what to do? He has a reason for what he's doing, obviously. But I get mad and I start yelling at him, and people always go, why are you arguing with God so much? That's how we communicate, okay? He knows me. I'm going to be honest. But sometimes you're not going to hear an answer. You're just not. And it hurts. And what I've had to learn lately is even if you don't hear that answer, even if God is silent, look what happened to Lazarus. Look what happened to him. Look what happened to Jesus. He was raised again. The same thing is going to happen to us when these over-religious idiots from every side right now, this is crazy, comes at us and tries to kill our body. We have to know that even if we don't hear anything, he's going to raise us again. And that's all I got. I'm sorry. I try to do it without crying. I can't do it. But thank you, because that's what I think I'm supposed to say, is have faith, even if God, even if you don't answer me, that I'll be raised again. It'll be okay. Just keep the good energy going. Deny the evil energy, and that's what's up.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. I think we're getting to a point now where a couple of people dropping off from the East Coast. We don't want to lose too many, but this has been a really good night, and I'm glad the fan club showed up for Ryan tonight here, and boosted up. I want to invite you to come on back.
Yeah, for everyone
week.
that came out, your check's in the mail.
Yeah, your $20 bill's coming. Yeah, so that's what we're about. I just want to turn it over. We're going to have our closing song, and then we're going to have a send-off. And there's question marks here. anybody that feels they'd like to send us off in a good way. Otherwise, it falls to me, and I'll always do it.
All right, so we'll do our song here, and then we'll see what the send-off has.
And if you're online, put yourself on mute. If you sing along with us, we hear you over here, only it's like a second and a half delayed. So, yeah, help us out by putting yourself on mute. But sing.
Yeah, sing and dance, and whatever you need to do in the world, please do.
All right, Kelsey, take it away.
Sorry, hold on. I had a little trouble in the sliding door. All right, here we go. But yes, I wanted to thank Ryan Remington for making the trip over to speak with us tonight at Good Medicine Way. And I look forward to hearing the replay and also hearing him back over here again with his book. All right. So if you all will share in a deep breath with me, then we can go right into the send off blessing. We're going to take it in. We're going to let it out. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for gathering each one of us here tonight with Good Medicine Way. I will ask that you put your hands over Good Medicine Way and help it to grow and help it to continue to be a place where we can have conversations, where we can learn from one another, where we can sharpen one another, Lord. I pray that you keep this ministry going way past many of our years, Lord. And Heavenly Father, I thank you for blessing Uncle Casey and also the team here with this wonderful vision of what Good Medicine Way is. And I want to thank you for just giving us this time to spend together on a Monday night, Lord. And I pray that that we're able to do it again next week and the week after, and so on and so forth. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for bringing Ryan Remington to us tonight. I would thank you for the safe travels, especially from where he is coming from, Lord. And I just pray that he gets home safely, even at the late hour. Keep the roads clear, keep the cars in uniform. And dear Lord, just help him to get home safely to his family and where he truly rests, Lord. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the words that he spoke tonight. I thank you for the ideas that he shared with us tonight. I pray that it did not fall on deaf ears and that we can start thinking a little bit more about what he shared with us tonight, Lord. And Heavenly Father, I just pray for all of our families that are represented here, the many home fires from the many different places, Lord. I pray that you help each of us to grow, to get better. I pray for those who are sick, those who are in mourning, those who are going through tough times, Lord. I pray that you shine your face upon them, Lord, and help them to know deep down inside that you're still there, Lord. You're still that still small voice that we hear even when we can't find the time to listen, Lord. I pray that you just that you let some of these ideas that we've learned tonight resonate in our lives, and that we can continue to be with you and to grow with you. And I just pray that you that you help us to learn from you, Lord. I ask all these things in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, folks. Thank you for being on tonight. Come back next week for sure. If you can join our book study tomorrow night, come on and join. Even if you just want to listen in, it's great. So I just want to send you off in a good way. Love you all. Come on back again. The Good Medicine Way.
Live long and prosper. We'll see you all next week. We're over here being a gang throwing up the signs.
That's our gang symbol.
Yes.
I can't do that. I just can't.
Can you do this?
Anyway.
Can you do all of them?
I got it.